Hi everyone. So in this session, in this video, I would like to discuss clauses and sentences. So clauses and sentences plays a very important part in writing because these are the basic of writing. So when you write your sentences, you have to make sure that your sentence is correct and proper. And in order to make a good sentence, you have to understand clauses, how to use and identify a clause. Okay, let's begin. I want you to take a look at these three group of words. Which of the followings can be categorized as a phrase, a clause, and a sentence? We have the one at the top, the one at the middle, and the one at the bottom. Let's say um, this one is A, B, and C. Take a look and decide which is a phrase, which is a clause, and which one is a sentence. Statement A. At this point, GoTo decided to make an initial public offering of stock. Statement B. While preparing for a potential initial public offering. And statement C, so that they can raise the capital and boost their public profile. Use your time. Which one is a phrase, which one is a clause, and which one is a sentence? Okay, so what is a phrase, clause, or sentence? At this point, GoTo decided to make an initial public offering of stock. Well, if you answer A as a sentence, you are correct. A is a sentence. What about B? While preparing for a potential initial public offering. What is it? Did you answer phrase? If you answer B is a phrase, congratulations, you are correct. That leaves us with C, so that they can raise the capital and boost their public profile. This one is a clause. Congratulations if you got all correct. But if you're still confused, how can A, we can call it a sentence? How can B is a phrase? And how C is called a clause? How do we define each term that we have here? How to differentiate a sentence, a phrase, and a clause? So we will talk about this. Okay, so first of all, let's take a look at a phrase. After a word, a phrase is one level um, closer to a sentence. Yeah, a phrase is a small group of words standing together as a conceptual unit, typically forming a component of a clause. So a phrase can form a clause. Okay, a word can form a phrase. Phrase is small group of words. How do we know which one is a phrase? We say a phrase, they they make one class of word in the sentence. They make one part of speech in a sentence. Okay, so look at the following clause. I took this clause from the previous one, yeah, so that they can raise the capital and boost their public profile. What about it? Let's see how many phrases they have. So that's one phrase, yeah. This work as an adverb. They is one word. This is the subject. Can raise, it's a verbal phrase. We call it phrase because it has more than one word. The capital, okay, wait a minute. Let me erase it. Okay, the capital, that's one phrase as well. This is the object. And then we have and. This is the conjunction. Boost, another verb. Their public profile. This is another object. Okay. The capital, this is what we call as a nominal phrase because it's basically similar. It has similar function to a noun. Yeah. Also this one, also a noun phrase. So we can see that boost is a verb and it's a word. Can raise, it's also a verb, but it has two words, so we call it verbal phrase. So one phrase, they take or they hold a position of one class or one part of speech in a sentence or in a clause. And it has um, more than one, what do we call it, one word. Okay, so what is a clause? Let's take a look. A clause is a unit of grammatical organization next below the sentence in rank. So after word, above it we have phrase, and above phrase we have clause. After clause we will have a sentence, yeah. And in traditional grammar, said to consist of a subject and predicate. So if phrase holds one position in a sentence or in a clause should have at least a subject and a predicate. And in English, yeah, we always need a verb in our predicate. So it should have subject and verb basically. Now look at the following sentences, yeah. You have to look professional. So basically, this is a clause. You is the subject. Okay. For the subject, I will circle it like this. And I will underline the verb. On the second clause, you is the subject and meet is the verb. Okay. It's better we call them clauses instead of sentences because they are not sentence yet. Okay. So if we look at these two clauses, we can see that the first one, you have to look professional. The meaning of the clause is already complete. So the first one, it's one clause that can also be a sentence because the meaning is already complete. The second one, when you meet the client, the meaning is not complete yet. So it's a clause, but it's not a sentence. Yeah. How do we know that the meaning is not complete yet? Imagine when you meet someone, yeah, and this person, let's say the name is George, and then George say, "Hey, when you meet the client," and that's it. Okay, what will you have in mind? You will questions, okay, what happened when I meet the client? Because it needs something else to complete. We cannot call it a sentence. Compared to the first one, you have to look professional. The context is already finished. Okay, I get it. I have to look professional. Yeah. For the second one, to be a sentence, we need to combine it with the first one. Then we have a sentence. You have to look professional when you meet the client. The meaning is complete there. So we can see here that a sentence can have two clauses as well. So what's the difference between the first one and the second one? What do we call the first clause here? The one that can be a sentence. And what do we call the second one that we cannot call a sentence? Let's take a look. So we have independent clause. Independent clause can be a sentence on its own. So the first one back then was an independent clause. For example, this one, I can't come. That's it. It can be a sentence. We call it independent clause. The other one is the dependent clause. It needs an independent clause to be a sentence. It begins with a subordinate clause marker. Yeah, it can be in a form of subordinate conjunction. It can be in a form of relative pronoun. Yeah, or noun clause marker. We won't talk about them today. Yeah, but just so you know, we have different kinds of subordinate clause marker. Look at the example here. Because I have to work overtime. Yeah. Here we have because as a subordinate conjunction. And then we have subject. We have verb, have to work. That's the verb. Okay. Because I have to work overtime cannot be one sentence. You need to combine it with an independent clause. Hence, we have the last sentence here. If we combine I can come with this, because I have to work overtime, we have this sentence which is complete. I can't come because I have to work overtime. The meaning is complete. Independent clause, dependent clause. The combination of independent clause and dependent clause will make a sentence. An independent clause can be a sentence itself. However, dependent clause cannot be a sentence. So a sentence is a group of words which, when they're written down, begin with a capital letter and end with full stop, question mark, or exclamation mark. If we write them down, yeah. Most sentences contain a subject and a verb, plus what we call as complete thought. Yeah, remember, because I'm hungry. That is not complete yet because you still have questions. What happened? Or so what if you're hungry? The meaning is not complete. It doesn't have the complete thought. Yeah. So let's take a look back at these three statements that we had in the first, in the beginning, at the beginning of this presentation, at this video. At this point, GoTo decided to make an initial public offering of stock. If we look here, we have subject and we have verb, decided to make. So basically, this is a clause. And because it doesn't have any subordinate conjunction, it is an independent clause. And it can be a sentence on its own, yeah? We call it simple sentence. While preparing for a potential initial public offering. We can see here there is no subject or verb here. Yeah. What about preparing? Is it a verb? Okay, if it is a verb, we don't have a subject actually. However, preparing here, it's not a verb. It's a gerund. Yeah. So after the preposition while, we only have the noun phrase here. We call it the prepositional phrase because we have the preposition and its object of preposition. So this is the object of preposition. There is no verb at all in this statement, yeah, because it doesn't have verb. We call it phrase because remember, to be a clause, you need a subject and a verb, or a subject and predicate. Okay. What about the last one? The last one here, we have the subject they, we have the verb can raise, yeah, we even have two verbs, yeah, can raise and boost. So we have the subject and the verb, and it has the subordinate conjunction so that. So it is a clause, and because it has a subordinate conjunction, it's a dependent clause. It cannot be a sentence on its own. To be a sentence, we need an independent clause. For example, we can combine the first one with the second one. If we combine them, it becomes a new sentence. At this point, GoTo decided to make an initial public offering of stock so that they can raise the capital and boost their public profile. So we know now the reason they can raise the capital and boost their public profile is this one. They decided to make an initial public offering of stock. Okay, so from this, we can have three types of sentences: simple sentence, compound sentence, and complex sentence. What is simple sentence? Simple sentence, it's simple. It only has one independent clause. Like this one. How are you? Yeah, we only have one independent clause here. Subject, verb. Subject, verb. Yeah, because this is question, so the subject is placed after the verb. This is independent clause. A sentence with only one independent clause. Yeah, that's a simple sentence. The second type of sentence is compound sentence. Okay, compound sentence has two independent clauses. Yeah, it has two independent clauses combined with a coordinating conjunction. There are 7 coordinating conjunction here, and you can take a look at the example there. This is compound sentence. These are compound sentences. The order is cancelled for the client failed to comply with our terms and conditions. Okay, we will not talk about this for in depth, yeah, because it will need another session. But I just want you to learn the different types of sentences here. And the third type of sentence is the complex sentence. If compound sentence has two independent clauses, a complex sentence has a combination of an independent clause and a dependent clause. Okay, the delivery will be late. So here we have the delivery, the subject will be late. This is the verb will be. This is the independent clause. And then we have because the weather turns bad. This is the dependent clause, yeah, with its own subject and verb. Before I got my current job, it starts with before, yeah, an adverb of time. So here we have the subordinate conjunction. We have the subject and we have the verb. So we have the dependent clause here, and we have the independent clause. Before I got my current job, I was a freelancer. The third sentence, you can refer to the term of references. We have the subject and the verb without subordinate conjunction. So this is the independent clause, which is enclosed. This one is what we call as the relative pronoun. Yeah, relative pronoun is also a marker of a subordinate conjunction, and this act as a subject too. Is enclosed is the verb. So this is the dependent clause. I believe that you will win that award. We have the subject, the verb, and the object. And the object itself has its own subject and its own verb. Yeah. So the object here is basically a dependent clause. And I believe plus object is the independent clause. Yeah. This is what we call a complex sentence with a noun clause. These are some examples of complex sentences. Okay. So why learning all these? Remember, in writing, it's very important that what you write is clear. So remember, when you make your sentence should have a subject, a verb, and a complete thought. These are the element of a sentence. Without any of this, you cannot call it a sentence. Okay, let's take a look at the example here. So you have to make sure your sentences are complete, like this one. The first one, yeah, both they have errors, yeah. The first one, to be honest, I thought I would fail when applying to this job. So it starts with a new sentence, while this one is only a prepositional phrase when applying to this job. There is no verb here. We only have the subject applying. So this is incorrect. It's not complete. The correction is like this. To be honest, I thought I would fail when applying to this job. So we have to combine this together to make it a full complex sentence. Okay. Now, the second one. If I win this award, then I happy. What's the matter here? What's the problem? What's the issue? If I win this award, this is the dependent clause. Then I happy. Remember that a predicate in English should have a verb. If you just use I, this is the subject, and happy, an adjective, there is no verb yet. Okay? That's why in the correction, I add the verb like this one. If I win this award, I will be happy. And I remove the then because if you use if with then, it will be redundant. So make sure that your sentence is logical and complete. To make it complete, you have to make sure that it has all aspects of a sentence: subject, verb, and complete thought. Without any of these three, you cannot make a good and complete sentence. Okay, thank you. That's it for this session. I will see you on the next video next week. Bye bye.